Welcome into the Illini Inquirer podcast. Jeremy Werner, Derek Piper. We got to talk about a big decision coming up. We're also going to have a little fun, bring in Joey Wagner, Isaac Trotter, do a little 2000s Illini basketball draft. A great idea by Derek Piper. He'll explain that a little bit later. But Derek, nice to have you. And we were wondering when this class of 2023 would start. And it seems like Sunday would be as good of a time as any, as the top targets. We've been talking about him for a while here. Amani Hansberry will be announcing his decision 2 p.m. Central Time on Sunday on 24/7 Sports YouTube channel. They've been doing a great job of all of these announcements. So how big of a day is this for Illinois basketball?
It's a huge one, and they've done a good job of prioritizing him, which is then reflected here on a recent 24/7 Sports rankings update where he shoots up 75 spots, breaks into the top 100, almost into the top 50, and there's still some time left with his senior season to elevate even further. He's just been, as we talked about all summer, so productive, had a great Peach Jam, averaged a double-double, and Brad Underwood and Chester Frazier have really pushed the gas hard for him. They love how he fits into their front court picture, both in terms of the immediate as a freshman, could maybe with his physicality, his rebounding, crack the rotation early on, and then big picture, him and Merez Johnson, Merez playing the four, and I know that they're going to continue to recruit James Brown as well. So they've done a really, really good job of making him feel like the top priority in their class. They've sold development. It's been key, both physical with Fletch, and then obviously they've done some good things, even with a post guy like Kofi. So this is a really big day. And I've sung Amani's praises, for months now. And I just think that he's a really, really productive player, a tough player, a guy that offensively is skilled, can play on the perimeter a little bit, handle, pass. Jump shots continuing to improve. He showed the mid-range really in July that was encouraging. So now that we've projected this as Illinois, Penn State earlier in the summer, Miami ramped up a little bit, getting the final official visit. Auburn offered, but ultimately was too late. They're not getting a visit. Vatek's been in for a long time. So it shaped up to be a winnable recruitment, and it was a good thing for Illinois. Not that they couldn't have won it if he would have opened things up and said, I'm going to go to Auburn, I'm going to go to Oregon, I'm going to really look at some of these other teams and get in late. But this could be a very, very big day. And Illinois is now taking over the crystal ball. I put in one myself here on Wednesday, and it's a big one for this program, and would be just another guy that would join a handful of top 50, top 60 prospects they've pulled in the last couple of years.
I want to get into why you're feeling Illinois, why everyone else is feeling Illinois here. But before we get to that, 70 spots in the rankings update, like 3-4 months was the last update. He impressed not only you. I know you were kind of like, hey, this guy's better than his current ranking, and it'll show eventually. But obviously our guy Eric Bossy felt that. Adam Finkelstein thought that. What did he do? Against whom? Like, how did he rise so rapidly? And what's that say about, Chester Frazier and the Illinois staff kind of getting in on him before that entire blow up happened?
It says a lot. I know that he's been a guy in the past that it wasn't one of those out of nowheres and then he surges all the way up. He was someone that earlier on in his high school career was a prominent name on the East Coast. I know that. And so he wasn't someone that just was a complete late bloomer and everything. It's just, I know that Eric Bossy has written about it before, that as he was physically dominant early on, then he didn't grow to be past 6'8", had to then be able to find a way to really produce. And that was adding skill to his game. He's talked about the fact that his ball handling has improved a lot. He's now a guy that can take a rebound and push it up the floor. And in terms of the EYBL circuit, where you face a lot of the top guys around the country, it just became routine that Amani's going up against a guy in the top 50, and Amani's got a double-double, and he's got a handful of assists, and Team Durant did really, really well in Peach Jam as well, and he was the leading catalyst of that on a team where two guys at the time were ranked higher than him. Jonathan Lamoth is a guard in the top 100 that's going to Maryland, and then Kwame Evans has been a top 10 prospect. I think he's still in that top 20 range that's at Mount Verde, and Amani was just more consistent, more productive than him. And we're talking about one of the best, what's considered to be one of the best prospects in the country. So for him, his motor is unmatched. He's going to play as hard as anybody on the court. He's going to rebound. Offensively, he's going to make good decisions as a passer. And then in July, I think what really elevated him and probably was the final thing that cracked him into that top 60 range for evaluators is the jump shot. I think prior, when I watched him in the spring, he wasn't hitting it that consistently. And that's something, because as we've talked about before between us, like, rankings are also based on pro potential. And for him to be an NBA type of guy, he's got to be able to make jump shots and really just to thrive as much as you can as a 6'8" big guy in the Big Ten too, if he is coming to Illinois. That's something that he really showed encouraging signs with. I think he can, as years go on, make some threes. He did that a little bit in July, but really it was the mid-range that was consistent. And then he was just going to do everything else so well and just produce so consistently.
Well, Derek, Illinois kind of got in the, I would say, the second wave of this recruitment. This is one of those where I don't think Illinois fans are going to feel bad for Penn State, but it's almost like, man, Penn State did everything right here. Our guy, Brian Snow, who's on that recruiting staff, they got in early. They pushed hard for him. They seem to be in such a good position. And then Illinois is now a big fish, right? Like the way they've played on the court here, the way they've developed guys. What did they do to sway Amani, and what have they done well to set themselves up as being the favorite heading into Sunday's decision against some really good programs?
Well, they went from, when you look at the late in the spring of the evaluation periods, they were interested and had offered him. They'd offered him last fall, but they had shown interest, and Chester was keeping up the relationship. But they went from interested to all in by what he showed in the final EYBL sessions in the spring, going into June and back on the high school scene. He took some visits. And at that point, he had taken officials to Penn State and Virginia Tech. Those were the teams that were the most serious about him, had been in the longest. And it seemed like at that point in time that it was probably going to come down to those two schools, and just depending on who was going to jump in later on. But the indications from Amani, and just knowing how this recruitment has played out here down the stretch, was he valued teams that were in on him for a while. He wasn't just going to go to one new offer and just all of a sudden say, well, that's the flashiest offer, and I'm just going to go and make that jump. Because not that Illinois, now being in the mix for as long as they would be, still wouldn't potentially have a chance to be that choice if he considered Auburn, if he considered Oregon. But Illinois deciding to go all in late in the spring, get him on campus for an official in June, showed him that he was a real priority. Chester, being as connected as he is in the East Coast, the fact that Amani plays in Baltimore now, high school wise, certainly helps Chester. He's done a great job with Amani. His family knows the Team Durant program that he played with very well. And then Brad got really involved too, and they sold development. They sold the way that Adam Fletcher's able to transform guys and get the most out of them. And the fact that Illinois is just more, they're sexier than Penn State. They've done a lot more on the court than Penn State. The fact that they just won a Big Ten regular season title, they got a 1 seed under their belt from the last couple of years, and that certainly plays into effect for someone that's done a lot of winning in his high school career. And I think that just all bode well with Illinois to go as hard as they were going for him, and then to complement it with the development, with the winning. And they are also talking to him about, Coleman Hawkins is on NBA draft boards. He's on ESPN's mock draft. I know that he's going to most likely start at the 5 this year, but there's a good chance he's gone next year. And while Illinois would still have Dane and still have Zachary Perrine, there's opportunity for Amani to come in and play. And I think that all plays into what's been a pretty strong sell for Illinois.
They are just racking up guys I always imagined in a Michigan State uniform. And I say that in like the best way. I mean, Ty Rogers, Amani Hansberry, like Dane Danger is like a Nick Ward type. You know what I mean? Like they're starting to accrue these front court pieces. Luke Goody is another one, right?
Terrence Shannon might be one. He's not exactly Miles Bridges, but you could see kind of big explosive wing.
Yeah, like that. I think that's such a great thing to see for Illinois. So what do they envision? Like, why has he been the guy that they've gone after? Like, what does he do to complement the other pieces that are on this 2023 roster? Like Coleman, I think they would love to see him make the leap to the NBA, because that means he's had a great season and he's developed very well over 3 years. Danger will probably be back. Goody, RJ, we think, Ty Rogers. You said Zachary Perrine. Like, how does he complement? Why does he fit so well, in their opinion?
As they've evaluated just the shift that college basketball in general, we look at the NBA game. Brad's talked a lot about floor spacing. He's talked a lot about having guys being able to shoot and opening up the lane for athletic wings, for guards to be able to make plays, and Amani being able to play kind of a small ball 5 role, can space the floor as eventually a pick and pop guy, or even just someone that can swing out into that mid post area and make jump shots. They see him as someone that I think you might see Brad go back to some more spread now that Kofi's out of the mix. You have some more skilled big guys, and Amani being able to pass as well as he does. He just has an offensive skill set that is modern to today's game basketball wise. And I think that you pair that with something, the Big Ten's always, I mean, maybe we'll talk about it differently once you get UCLA, USC in the mix, whatever the Big Ten's ultimately going to look like, and you just advance the basketball time machine 15 years, maybe it's not as physical of a league. I still find that probably hard to believe, but need someone that's going to be able to play physically in the post. It's going to hit the glass. Rebounding is always going to be important. And those are things that he does really well. And then it's the toughness, grittiness component that is a Michigan State-esque, is a Baylor-esque that they've coveted with other players, and he fits right into their culture. So I think for all those reasons, he just seemed to be a very, very good fit. And I even think with a piece like Perrine is more of that long, skilled guy that maybe isn't as physical, but maybe can shoot the ball a little bit better eventually. And I think that those pieces could complement each other. And it's just finding some pieces that are a little bit different. And I know that Brad just likes as many facilitators, ball handlers, skilled guys as he can get now that he's transitioning post Kofi. And they thought that Amani was one of those guys.
All right. So Amani Hansberry now has 6 crystal ball picks, all for Illinois, including Derek Piper. Assuming that falls through, Derek, like that happens. Can people breathe now about the class of 2023?
I would think so. I think you've probably, if you've been following along as we covered it throughout the summer and now into what's traditional, your usually decision-making time in the fall, is it's going to be a smaller class, and also understanding just the potential in the portal, that Brad's leaving one open for a mid-season addition potentially. And then also you only have Matthew Meyer as your for sure gone after this year, just based on eligibility running out. But so it's going to be a smaller high school class. But if you do get Amani on Sunday, and you've known, we've talked about it, he's been their top target. If you get your top target, and now you don't even have to have the conversation of, well, Amani was the top target, but he was ranked 116 overall. Should we be satisfied with that? I mean, the rankings now, if you're just going based on rankings, number 52 overall, if you're able to land him, you should be pretty satisfied. Now, they wouldn't be done because they're still interested in a shooter, whether that's going to be a mid-year transfer or just transfer portal in general, or something that they find in the high school scene. Brady Dunlap is 6'7" from California that they are intrigued by. Alex Tui from Australia. And then also now that Dre Gibbs Lawhorn is decommitted from Purdue, and they want to continue to have, I mean, if there's one thing you know about Brad, it's that he's had a stable of guards every year that are very talented, multiple ball handlers, and they're very high on what he could be at Illinois. And going to see if they can flip him from across the Big Ten, from Purdue to Illinois. I know there's others in the mix, Memphis, Gonzaga. He's a very high-level player, athletic guard that can shoot the three, but he's another guy you could pinpoint. But to your original question, if they land Amani, yeah, you should feel great. And anything else is probably just icing on the cake.
We'll bring back Derek for our Illini Basketball 2000s draft coming up, but Illinois certainly looking for a Sunday fun day, Derek. And yes, I'm proud of that. That would be a good day for them. Derek, thank you, man.
Always fun, man.